In this video, I'm going to be breaking down how we run our high ticket masterminds. I'm actually going to be walking you through a real mastermind that we ran for a few years at Fund Launch called Whale Group. This is where we kind of developed our philosophy around high ticket mastermind. So I think it serves as a really solid example on how exactly we structure our high ticket mastermind. So I'm going to be diving into the weeds, the strategy. I'm going to be breaking down how we launch masterminds, how we promote masterminds, how we structure the content and the experiences, as well as diving into the numbers. It's going to be a good one. And my whole goal for this video is if you are an online education business owner or you run your own community or a high ticket coaching program, that you watch this video. You can either apply some nuggets to improve the masterminds that you are currently running, or if you know that you want to host or launch a mastermind one day but you haven't gotten there yet, that this video can help you feel prepared and ready when it's time to launch your own mastermind. Also, before I dive in, a little context on who I am. My name is Andy Monroe, co-founder of Bullish Events, and we help online education business owners integrate in-person events into their business, whether it's ascension events, affinity events, mastermind events, or fulfillment events. Founders that run coaching programs or communities will come to us, tell them their objectives. We download that and help them pick the right event model that will serve their business and help them achieve their objectives. Over the last 5 years, we've been able to generate over $10.7 million in direct revenue from live events. We've had over 6,500 attendees come through our experiences. And through all of this, we've been able to maintain an average attendee satisfaction score of 4.75 out of 5. All right, with all that being said, let's jump right into it. So how do we run our high ticket mastermind events? Well, a good place to start is launching. This is a question we get all the time about any event model, whether it's masterminds, ascension events, affinity events, or fulfillment events. People always ask us how we launch and how we market these events. For this mastermind, we waited for there to be demand, and I would always recommend doing this as well. So one mistake I see a lot of people make is they try to jump the gun on launching their own mastermind, and they don't really have a following, they don't really have any clients, they don't really have any social proof or any testimonials. Like, there's a whole lot of momentum going on in their ecosystem, and then they go, boom, I want to go launch a mastermind, which it can happen. Nothing is binary. I don't like to speak in binary terms. There's always exceptions. There's always nuance and context that's needed to understand what the best move is. But in general, when it comes to events, we always wait for there to be demand. So when we actually launched this mastermind, we had thousands of people that had come through our $2,000 coaching program, and we had hundreds of people that had come through our $30,000 coaching program. So we had a lot of people in our ecosystem, we had a lot of momentum, and we had a lot of happy clients that were getting awesome results. And once that was happening, once people joined our $30,000 coaching program and started to get really good results. And just to give you guys some context, for those of you that haven't heard of Fund Launch or haven't watched any of the previous videos where I walk through or talk about Fund Launch. At Fund Launch, we help people launch and scale investment funds. So everyone was joining these programs and joining this community to learn how to launch and scale investment funds. So when people did that and started to get really good results, they started to ask us if there was any other rooms they could be a part of or any other tiers that they could join. They wanted to be around more people that were already past the launch phase and that were in the scaling phase of their funds. So we waited until there was actual demand to launch the mastermind. And I would always recommend that for anybody else that's thinking about hosting any type of event. Like I said, it can be done, but it just makes it so much more enjoyable and much more likely to be a success when you wait for there to be actual demand for an event inside of your community. So for this one, we waited for the demand to be there, and then we soft launched it at one of our other live events. So like I mentioned, we had a $30,000 coaching program at Fund Launch. And a part of that program, we would do 3 to 4 events per year. So at those events, we would soft launch the mastermind and talk about it. Be like, hey, just so you guys know, this thing exists now. If you have done X, Y, and Z, I'll walk you through the criteria in a second. But if you've done X, Y, and Z and you're looking for more, you want to be in a room full of other people that have also done X, Y, Z and are trying to get to the next layer of X, Y, Z, this is possible. Go talk to my team in the back of the room. It's application only. You can apply. We'll hit you up after the event. It was very soft, very casual. And that's pretty much all we did, at least for launching to the community one-to-many. What we would also do is we would do targeted warm outreach to people in our community that we knew would be a good fit. So we had a pretty good pulse on who was doing well inside of our community, who had already launched funds and those in the scaling phase and past the launch phase. So we would reach out to all those people and say, hey, we just launched this mastermind. It's for people that are out of the launch phase and are currently in the scale phase. We know that's where you are right now. If you want to be a part of this community and attend some really cool experiential events, let us know. We'll save you a spot. If not, no worries. So we would do some very casual, targeted warm outreach to people in our community that we knew were already getting good results and that met the criteria for the mastermind. And then what we would do is we would capture a ton of content at these events and then just post it to our community, post it on social media, send it to our newsletter, just to create a bunch of FOMO. So we never really had to worry about marketing the mastermind once we launched the mastermind. There was always people asking about it. There were always applications coming in. People always wanted to have a spot in the room. And we didn't really have to promote it after we launched it, which was nice. And this is what happens when you do it right. And you wait for your community to want something like this. You don't really have to worry about marketing and distribution. Like, marketing and distribution becomes a problem when the community isn't ready for something to happen. Then you have to kind of force it down their throats. But for this, it was already very much so in demand. People wanted it. People were ready to attend something like this and ready to invest in something like this. So we didn't really have to worry about marketing once the event or once the mastermind was launched. That kind of captures the whole launch and the promotion. So that breaks down our strategy. Pretty casual, pretty straightforward. I know a lot of people watch these videos looking for like the secret sauce when it comes to marketing events, but being honest, the secret sauce for marketing events is just waiting for there to be enough demand in your community and in your coaching programs to actually host in-person events. Then it comes to deciding the ICP. So this is the criteria that I was talking about. For this mastermind, it was for people that were running a fund of $10 million AUM. So they weren't launching a fund. They weren't in the beginning phases of a fund. They had already launched and they were already running a fund that was at least $10 million assets under management. So this was the criteria for the mastermind. People would apply and we would either let them in or deny them based on this criteria. And we were very strict on this because people are paying to be in a room of these people. So everyone that was trying to join this mastermind, they wanted to be in a room that was filled with other people that were either at the same stage as them or ideally further along than them. So if we let someone in that was under $10 million AUM or that was still in the launching phase, it would be kind of a disservice to anyone else that was in the room. So we were very serious about this. And if you're going to be launching your own mastermind, I would recommend that you get very clear on who your ICP is and set a very strict, strong barrier of entry that people have to qualify. They have to be above that barrier in order to qualify for your mastermind. So for us, it was $10 million AUM in their fund. Maybe you're doing a mastermind for home service businesses. And in that case, you could do home service businesses that are making at least $100,000 a month and make that like your very strict barrier of entry. So that's what I would recommend if you're hosting your own mastermind or thinking about it. Get very clear on who your ICP is and what the qualifications will be to be in the room. And of course, one thing I didn't put here, but it's important to mention, you also want to make sure that they are just like, they're people that you vibe with, you know, because this was such a high ticket mastermind and we weren't getting a ton of applications, we were able to really vet each person and jump on a call with them. And sometimes we even knew who they were because we had met them at some of our previous events. So we had a really good idea of who these people were. And we wanted to make sure that the whole group would like mesh very well together. And also that these people were like very enjoyable to work with. So if you're hosting your own mastermind, yes, you have like your financial criteria, your financial barrier that people need to meet, but you also want to make sure that people are just enjoyable, good people that are going to contribute to the group. They're not going to be value extractors. They're going to contribute to the overall betterness of the group and the development of the group. So that's an important intangible nuance to pay attention to with masterminds. And then there's the why. As you can see, I'm kind of walking you through how we structure our high ticket masterminds, but it's also kind of a checklist that you can follow for your own mastermind. Of course, you'd probably want to determine your why before you launch it, but you get the point. These are all just things, these are all boxes to check when you're building your own mastermind. So this is going to be breaking down our objectives, like why we wanted to host a mastermind in the first place. And it actually might surprise you. So the first reason is trust and affinity. And this is one of our biggest, you could say, core values or messages or, you know, higher purposes at Bullish Events. Is we really like to use events as a vehicle for building trust with our clients' communities, their clients, their potential clients, their audience, whatever it is. And this is what we did at Fun Launch as well. Events are extremely effective when it comes to building trust and affinity with an audience. And this is the same case for a mastermind. It just builds more trust and affinity with our top performing clients. Then there was authority and positioning. Masterminds are amazing for positioning in an industry. For example, people saw that we were hosting a mastermind with 10 to 15 people that were all running $10 million investment funds that came from our community, that were all students of ours that eventually ascended up into our mastermind. That is fantastic for positioning, fantastic for authority. So that was a huge objective of ours. It was also completing the value ladder. And I actually made a video breaking down our entire value ladder when it comes to events. So I'll link that down in the description. But the mastermind was at the top of the value ladder. We always had another room that people wanted to be in. So there was the Ascension event, Fun Launch Live at the very bottom where anyone could join. There were the Black Card fulfillment events that people people had to buy the $30,000 program to be a part of. And then there was the mastermind, which was kind of at the top of the value ladder. This is when you've launched your fund, you're scaling your fund, you've kind of gotten out of that beginning phase, and now you're in scale mode. It was a nice completion of the value ladder. And it was also just something for people to chase. So once we launched the mastermind and it was there and we would post the content, we would talk about it, so many people would come up to us and be like, hey, my goal is to be a part of that mastermind. I want to be in that room with all the other people that are running funds of at least $10 million AUM. Like that was the goal for a lot of people inside of the community. So it was always something for people to chase. And it's a very similar thing to community awards, which we talk a lot on this channel about as well. And then there was content. Of course, we wanted to capture a lot of really cool content from these events because we went to all these really cool locations, and it was great for marketing. We could repurpose it into organic content as well as paid ads and paid media. So the content was a huge objective. And then finally, networking relationships. So Bridger is he's the co-founder of Fund Launch. Bridger and Mason are the two co-founders. And they knew that if they could just hang out with all of their best performing clients and their clients that were launching really cool funds and doing really cool things, they would just increase their network and the relationships that they had. So that was a huge objective for the masterminds as well. So those were pretty much all the objectives, as well as, of course, introducing a new revenue stream to the business. But this definitely wasn't a financially motivated objective. We were making a lot of money through our $2,000 coaching program. We were making a lot of money through our $30,000 coaching program. So we didn't really need to introduce a new revenue stream. So the revenue was kind of a byproduct of this mastermind. It wasn't our core objective, but it's also not a bad thing. So now I want to break down the numbers. The price point for this mastermind was $75,000 per year. If you are doing your own mastermind, you can also do a per event pricing. For this one, we just did an annual membership fee of $75,000, but we've seen a lot of masterminds out there that you also do like a per event pricing. So just breaking this up between 3 or 4 or whatever it is. But for this one, we did a $75,000 a year price point. We kept it to 10 to 15 members, and this is really important when it comes to masterminds. Of course, you can scale up. I know Jeremy Haynes runs a mastermind, and I think he has a couple hundred people in there, which is pretty cool. But we wanted to keep this very exclusive at the beginning and limit it to 10 to 15 people because you can get so personalized and in the weeds when the mastermind is in that 10, 15, 20 person range. And it also applies a lot of scarcity. Like when we launched this event and we said there's only 10 to 15 spots, people really rushed to submit their applications and commit to being a part of it because they knew these spots were going to go super fast. So it's good for scarcity, it's good for urgency, and it also just creates a really good experience. That being said, I would recommend starting at this range of 10 to 15 members, and then you can scale up as much as you want as long as you aren't deteriorating the experience for the members and the clients. Like Jeremy Haynes is mastermind. I hear a lot of good things about it. People are stoked to be a part of it. People talk about it online like it's a really cool experience. So it's obvious that he's found a way to scale his mastermind up to multiple hundred people, but I wouldn't really recommend starting there. I'd recommend starting at 10 to 15 and then scaling from there. And then one thing that we did is if somebody was ascending from our $30,000 program, like they had already invested $30,000 with us and now they want to join the mastermind and they met the criteria, we would often credit their 30K towards the 75K. So it'd be like 75 minus 30. And that would just leave them with a $45,000 investment after the $30,000 credit was applied. So we would do that for people that were coming out of our $30,000 program. If someone found the mastermind and didn't come through our $30,000 program, they would have to pay the full $75,000. And we would do about 3 events per year, and each event would cost around $40,000 to $50,000 because we really invested in the experience for these members. Now, the last section of this video, I actually want to break down the events themselves, how we structured the events and the experiences. So up first, we wanted to make them very experiential. So we wanted to create core memories for our attendees and clients and be like, create memories that people would talk about 10, 15, 20 years in the future and be like, hey, you know what? I actually attended this mastermind with Fund Launch and we went to Alaska and we fished the salmon run. I caught the biggest salmon of my life and it was kind of this core experience for me. Like we wanted to do stuff like that for our clients and attendees. And that's what we did. We took them to Alaska and we let them fish the salmon run and we rode ATVs through the mountains and we went to Phoenix, Arizona and watched the Waste Management Phoenix Open and also did some Navy SEAL training. We went to Southern Utah and shot guns and rode ATVs. We took them to Hawaii and did this whole boat tour around the island of Kauai. We did a lot of really cool stuff with these people because we wanted to create core memories for them. So we made them very, very experiential. And that's where we were spending the money. We were like, hey, if we're going to go to Alaska and fish the salmon run, like, yes, it's going to be kind of expensive. But again, it was very worth it for what we were trying to build and what we were trying to establish inside of the ecosystem. We did private chefs. We had great locations, like I said, Hawaii, Alaska, Utah, Arizona, places like that. And then we would structure a lot of the content of the event around this give and ask activity. And this is actually a very powerful activity that you can introduce into your events that kind of takes the load off of you as the host when it comes to designing the content. So the way a give and ask works is it's kind of self-explanatory. So every single attendee at the event was expected to present a give and an ask. So we would give them, 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes, and they could allocate that time however they wanted. So if they wanted to spend a lot of time on their give, they could do 15 minutes of giving, so like teaching something, talking about something that's working for them, and then 5 minutes of asking. So asking the group to help them think tank a problem in their business or their life. Or, maybe it's a 30-minute session and somebody wanted to spend more time on the ask instead of the give. They would spend 10 minutes on the give and then 20 minutes on the ask. And they would ask, hey, I'm struggling with this one thing in my life or this thing in my business. Can you guys help me think through it? And then everybody in the room would help think tank their ask. And this was really cool because everybody in the room was running, like I said, at least a $10 million AUM investment fund. So everybody had something to give. Like they all had value. They all had insights. They all had really cool things to talk about. But it also wasn't only business. Some people would come in and talk about family. Some people would talk about fitness. Some people would talk about, spirituality. So they could do whatever they wanted. But the thing with masterminds that it's important to point out is you don't really want to be like there's no teaching. There's no one person teaching during a mastermind. You want to tap into the collective intelligence of the room and get everybody involved in a mastermind. And that's what we would do with this give and ask activity. So this is a really cool activity that you can implement. And I think this is like the only thing we did with the content at our events is we would just run the give and ask for most of the day. And then we would give them plenty of time to just to hang out and connect. People attend masterminds to meet other people in the room, connect with people, develop new relationships. So we would always give them plenty of time just to hang out and connect. We would do poker, we'd play games, we would sit around a campfire, we'd play cornhole. We would go on these different excursions, ride in these hot air balloons or go do the Navy SEAL training or go watch a golf tournament together, go fishing, go ride ATVs. We would do all these like very bonding activities just so that we could establish these relationships between the attendees, because that's ultimately what people are doing when they join masterminds. Like, yeah, the content is cool, hearing the insights from other people is cool, but it really is the people in the room that you meet that is the most valuable thing about masterminds. And that kind of wraps it up. So the events were pretty simple, and you can kind of see that this strategy overall is quite simple. All you're really doing with the mastermind is you are picking an ICP, you're picking a person that you want to build the mastermind around. So for us, it was fund managers running at least a $10 million AUM fund. You wait for there to be demand, so you wait for people to seek it out. So you need to get results for your pre-existing clients. You need to kind of build an audience and build an ecosystem. And then once people start to ask about a mastermind or ask about events, that's when you launch the events to them. And then once the mastermind is launched, you just go to these really cool locations. Like right here, this is us riding ATVs in Hawaii. This is that Navy SEALs training I was talking about. This is fishing in Alaska. This is sitting on the deck in Alaska. This is in Phoenix. This is in Utah. So we just went to these really cool places and let the magic happen. Let people connect with each other. We tapped into the collective intelligence and let people present what was working for them. I'm pretty sure when we were running this mastermind, we had 100% renewal rate every single year because people just loved it so much. So this is our philosophy around high ticket masterminds, and this is how we run our high ticket masterminds. If you run your own online education business or your own community or your own coaching program and you're interested in launching your own mastermind, or maybe you already do host your own mastermind but you just want to improve it, click the link down below. We have an application. If you apply and we see that it's a good fit, we can jump on a call and see if there's anywhere we can help. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.